You are listening to Viewpoints from Place Cloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
We're standing on a windy road in Richmond in South London called Ham Farm Road. This road follows what was once the boundary of the Ham Farm Nursery with Ham Common. Ham Farm Nursery was managed by the Walker family from the mid-1880s until it was sold to a development company in 1953. In the 1890s, Mr. Walker of Ham Farm was reportedly one of Britain's greatest peach growers, growing his peach trees in glasshouses. When the peach trees were in blossom, men would walk through the houses and strike the flowers with a rabbit's foot tied to a stick to make the pollen fly until the air was thick with it, in order to fertilise the flowers. Peaches were not Mr. Walker's only crop, however. In the last few decades of the 19th century, the flower trade in England grew rapidly as new railways enabled freshly cut flowers to be transported to market, and the demand for flowers within the urban centres steadily grew with the changing fashions. Many of the farms and market gardens which were cultivated on the outskirts and borderlands of London turned all or some of their land over to flowers. At the foot of his peach trees in Ham, Mr. Walker grew chrysanthemums for the cut flower market in autumn. And when the chrysanthemums were moved out, spring bulbs, tulips, narcissus and hyacinths were moved in their millions to be brought on in the peach houses. One report on the state of the flower market from 1894 wrote of bulbs that were grown in Ham and were exported to Holland of all places, commenting that it has a Coles to Newcastle ring about it with a touch of the absurd. Certain bulb species seem to do very well in the alluvial Thames soil, with Ham bulbs sent as far afield as California via New York and Amsterdam, being welcomed there as Dutch. Over 130 acres were dedicated to bulb cultivation at Ham Farm, but since bulbs could not be grown for sale in the same soil year after year, they were alternated with cruciferous crops, so that the land on alternate years was striped with cabbages and wallflowers. Long lines of lily of the valley were also planted down the avenues of a dwarf apple orchard, sheltered by the foliage above them. Cyclamen, too, were grown in earnest in several houses at Ham, raised from seed grown on the premises, and were so prolific that Mr. Walker sent more cyclamens to Covent Garden than any other grower in England. The flowers of the Ham Farm nurseries certainly brightened the land around Ham Farm. As written by the reporter in 1894, there is no prettier sight in our flower factories than a house of cyclamens.